I've made many discoveries during my studies and travels, invented many wonders, but I can assure you, the greatest is this. Watch, like, and subscribe to this channel, or I cannot be responsible for the consequences.
For centuries, Dunwall has been the capital of the Empire of the Isles, and its rulers the ultimate head of state for 4 nations, for better or worse. 1,000 years before the events of Dishonored, a forgotten ancient civilization thrived on the site that would become the great city, worshipping the outsider and inscribing whale bones with his mark. These artifacts are still found washed up on the banks of the Wrenhaven River. But it was only in the year 1626 of the world's calendar that it rose to its full prominence. In 1625, the 4 nations of what would become the Empire were independent sovereign entities. Tivia, Gristle, and Serkonos each had their own monarchs, and Morley a co-ruling king and queen. Then, King Finlay Morgengard of Gristle launched the War of 4 Crowns, a bid to unite all the Isles under one ruler. Tivia willingly submitted to this alliance, thanks to a prophecy by its legendary folk hero Prince Khalasar that Tivia and the Isles will be one. The king of Serkonos resisted, but was overthrown by a conspiracy of nobles and the Grand Guard led by the Aventa family, who then switched sides and was rewarded with rule over the island as a duchy. Morley resisted until the end, but was defeated by the superior forces of the other 3 isles. Each island was afforded a level of autonomy commensurate with its actions during the war. Tivia was left largely independent, while Morley was put completely under the Gristolian thumb. Following this victory, King Finlay Morgengard VI was crowned Emperor Finlay Morgengard I in 1626. He moved his seat of power from the ancient Morgengard Castle north of Poolwick down to Dunwall, and established a parliament there. 5 years later, the Emperor commissioned the first whaling ships, starting the whaling trade. But these were ships of wood and sail, rather than iron and steam as we see in Dishonored. The Morgengard dynasty would rule the empire for 43 continuous years, with Finlay succeeded by Valessa, then Jal for only 1 year. Following this, in 1669, Aneurin Rithirk was crowned emperor, and 6 years later Eilish, who ruled 3 years. The last Morgengard emperor, Hurrian, ruled from 1678 to 1705. Little is known of these years. However, it can be inferred from the short reigns and switching dynasties that this was a period of particular political turmoil. A period of relative stability followed in the 18th century when the Olaskir dynasty came to power in 1705. During the reign of Yefim Olaskir, the Abbey of the Everyman rose to prominence. Yefim was succeeded by Zolana Olaskir in 1714 and Daniel Olaskir in 1727. Alexei Olaskir enjoyed the longest reign in the empire's history, from 1751 to 1783. He was reportedly a large man enamored of military uniforms and pageantry, and went about with bodyguards in bright red jackets and fur-trimmed tricorn hats. He was one of many to seek the hand of Vera Dougal, but she refused him to marry Lord Preston Moray, becoming Vera Moray and later Granny Rags. Interestingly, Alexei himself officiated this marriage in 1790, indicating that he abdicated after a very long reign. Empress Larissa was the last Olaskir, assassinated in 1801. This was the time of the Morley insurrection, when that isle attempted to throw off its overlords in Gristle. It was inspired in part by the harsh treatment of Morleyan citizens both at home and in Dunwall. The fighting mostly took place at sea, and Gristle's navy is credited with its eventual victory. However, Morley guerrillas were able to use the extensive sewer network beneath Dunwall to move about the city and strike where they pleased. In this way, they assassinated Larissa Olaskir, even though they lost the war. It was during this period that the position of Royal Spymaster became publicly known, though it had existed in secret at least since the founding of the Empire. Morley came under even stricter control after this, with the King and Queen reduced to figureheads completely subordinate to the Gristol Parliament. Having produced no heir, the Olaskir dynasty ended its 96 years in power when an emergency Lord Regent was appointed by Parliament. In 1803, Parliament offered the crown to Euhorn Jacob Caldwin, the first of the Caldwin dynasty. The Caldwins were considered relatively distant from the throne, implying they were a compromise safe choice among the parliamentary elites. Euhorn's reign was one of prosperity and rapid industrial advancement, seeing the construction of Caldwin's Bridge and renovation of the sewer system. He also made the grounds of Dunwall Tower open to the public during the day, a move later strongly criticized by Spymaster Hiram Burrows. It was also during this time that refinement of whale oil was developed by natural philosopher Edmund Roseborough, and inventions using it by Anton Sokolov. This allowed mass production of steel buildings and ships, but also drove old timber families such as the Brigmores to bankruptcy. Euhorn Caldwin died in 1825, and was succeeded by his daughter Jessamine. Jessamine's reign was marked by numerous political conspiracies and conflicts that undermined unity. During the time of the rat plague, her compassionate refusal to quarantine the poorer districts led Spymaster Hiram Burrows, who secretly brought the plague himself from Pendicia to eliminate the poor, to arrange for her to be assassinated and become regent himself in 1837. If you've played Dishonored, you certainly know of these events.
It's over, Hiram. Your head will roll for what you've done. No!
Lord Regent Burrows was exposed and replaced briefly by Regent Admiral Farley Havelock, who was himself deposed and Empress Emily Caldwin crowned, all in 1837. As Emily was 10 years old at the time, it can be assumed that her father and royal protector Corvo Attano acted as de facto regent for some years afterward. Though considering the Empire's track record with those holding this title, it's no surprise it was not used explicitly. Emily's early reign was not terribly successful, given her lack of interest in the business of government and the rising political opposition she faced.
I wish I could just run away from all this.
She did, however, restore the Rudshore Financial District, which had been flooded due to poor maintenance and neglect before and during the rat plague, and made progress in keeping Dunwall's gangs in check. But her lack of attention to the other isles led to the rise of Delilah Copperspoon's, or Delilah Caldwin, depending on whom you wish to believe, coup against her in 1852, aided by Duke Luca Abel of Serkonos and Mortimer Ramsay of the Dunwall City Watch. The violent opposition to Delilah's brief reign, especially by the Abbey, as well as Morley using the event as an excuse to contemplate rising up once again, spurred the restored Empress Emily to take a more active role in governing the empire. Only time will tell how successful her second term, and the Caldwin dynasty overall, will prove to be.